Welcome to Fear and Greed Sunday Feature. I'm Michael Thompson. Every Wednesday, we release a sister podcast called How Do They Afford That? It features me and financial planner Canna Campbell, and it's all about personal finance. It's about making your money work harder for you. The episode that I'm sharing with you today, though, as our Sunday feature, would probably be my favourite one that we've done over the last couple of years because Canna, you see, has been a financial planner now for more than 20 years. And in this episode, we go through the 6 most common questions that she was asked by clients when they met her for the first time across her career. And the thing is, they were not the questions that I was expecting her to have been asked. Now, I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you do too. Welcome to How Do They Afford That? The podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and the co-host of the podcast Fear and Greed Business News. As always, I'm with financial planner Canna Campbell, founder of Sugar Mama TV, which is the financial literacy platform that you will find pretty much everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, books and podcasts like this one. Hello, Canna.
Hello, how are you?
I am very well indeed. Thank you. I have been observing a trend in recent weeks because we are still relatively close to the start of the year. And so you see people making money resolutions for at least the first kind of 6 weeks of the year. And one that I've seen a few times now, it just keeps popping up. Maybe the algorithm has kind of picked me as very susceptible to this. People committing to a no-buy year or a no-spend year. So, my questions for you today, Canna. Why would anybody do this? How would they do this? Is it even possible to go a full year without spending within reason? Obviously, I know there's going to be exceptions to the rule. Let's jump into it. What exactly is a no-buy year? How does it actually work in practice?
Okay, a no-buy year is a personal financial challenge where you commit to avoiding non-essential spending for an entire year. So it's really about going to the heart of what a need is versus a want and stripping back to the basics of life to help you save money, preserve money even, and just completely recalibrate your spending habits.
I saw recently some really alarming stats about how much Australians spend, and in particular clothing.
And Black Friday sales. I think we spent $7.3 billion or something
ridiculous. This is extraordinary. And on the clothing front, Australians buy 56 pieces of clothing per year on average. Yeah. That is more than anyone else in the world.
Isn't that disturbing?
I am amazed. And obviously that's kind of an average. And I know that I would be well below that. So I can only imagine then. Yeah.
2 flannies, 2 striped shirts, and a black t-shirt. Oh, and a khaki one that you're wearing today. That's new. I haven't seen that one before.
No, it is very old. Thank you. So I've pretty much committed to my own no-buy life. Basically, I'm just going to rewear these until they actually disintegrate on me. So I'm already there. But isn't that alarming? Yeah. 56 pieces of clothing purchased per year on average in Australia. So you can see why you don't want to come across kind of anti-consumerist, but really there's got to be something wrong.
There's a great documentary actually that's worth watching called Buy Now, which I made my son Rocco sit and watch with me, which touches on obviously clothing and electronic goods, but it is fascinating, which if you want to learn more about how we spend.
I was just
you're like, you just stop listening to me.
No,
Buy Now is what it's called.
I was writing it down. Okay. There is a difference between not listening and taking notes, and I was writing down Buy Now, and I was just there pondering, going, I wonder if that's buy B-U-Y or
B-U-Y.
Yeah, I'm assuming it is now.
It's on Netflix.
Okay, so is that why people then are drawn to these challenges? Why do you think it is? Is it because that we almost just get overwhelmed by the amount we are spending, by the amount of stuff that we are accumulating? Is this a spending thing, or is it a lifestyle thing, trying to get more towards a minimalist kind of lifestyle and attaching the spending mindset to that?
I think there are two key reasons, and obviously everyone's different, but these challenges appeal to people because they address a universal truth. Deep down, most of us know that we are overspending, even if it's not intentional. So if you take something like a no-buy challenge, it gives us this really concrete structure to try and work within, and gives us some accountability, and also allows us to kind of reset our financial habits, as well as, just have something to sort of sink our teeth in and focus on if we haven't necessarily come up with any New Year's resolutions as yet. But also, I think there's definitely a really strong psychological element, because people are intrigued by the idea of breaking free from consumerism and seeing actually how much little they can really live on. And they're really curious to see what they might learn and discover about themselves by doing a challenge like this or something very similar. So at the end of the day, whatever reason you're doing it for, it's definitely empowering to take control of your finances and see how you can go with this in a definitive way. And it also, creates a sense of achievement if you are able to pull off this challenge. I mean, this one that we're talking about is a year challenge, is fairly substantial amount of time.
And I suppose you can always kind of start with a no-buy month or something like that, right?
No-buy week,
like a
weekend.
Do it for February, frugal February, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the rules around this, I like structure. I like some rules. Can you please set some rules here for me, Canna? Is it just you don't buy anything that is non-essential? You can still buy food. You can still buy medicine.
I would hope so, yeah. And obviously,
you didn't jump in there, and I'm like, okay, all right.
Looking, going, really? But obviously, you look at Maslow hierarchical needs. You go with the essentials. So, shelter, accommodation, food, clothing, healthcare. You start with that.
But clothing, though, that's probably
clothing so you're not naked. I mean, not clothing like, a luxury designer wardrobe. I'm talking clothing like let's cover ourselves up.
Yeah, clothing is probably one that kind of straddles this, because you do need it to get by.
Okay, let me re-articulate that. At least underpants, like underwear.
You just set a minimum dress code for the studio. So one must wear underwear, and the rest of it, if you're in a no-buy month, just go for it. Goodness me. That is a confronting thought. So anything else, though, gets just struck off. So we're talking that you wouldn't buy takeaway. You wouldn't buy a takeaway coffee, for instance.
All right. Okay. So to do this realistically, you've really got to challenge this or tailor this to your unique circumstances. So look at what your spending is like and what you class as an essential versus a non-essential. And then you can work out your own rules. This is not a hard and fast way of doing it. Everyone is different, and people are in different stages of their lives. So for example, a young family like you and I, this is going to be a lot harder because we have, kids' activities that we need to do and be a part of. And, a child's not going to understand, sorry, we can't buy Jimmy a birthday present even though you're going to his party because we're doing this no spend year.
Well, just send him some best wishes. Kids love that.
Make them a card.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot harder for younger families. So you would make maybe the rules a little bit more relaxed. Whereas, say, singles living at home, if you're lucky enough, you might be able to do this realistically and go fairly aggressively. And I believe, the person who wrote that story for the Sydney Morning Herald, is someone who's, I think, single independent person that was that, has that ability to make those changes quite easily and doesn't have those financial obligations necessarily on their shoulders. And then if you look at someone like who's a self-funded retiree, they could cut back on things, the luxuries of retirement, such as, traveling as much or going out, like certain hobbies that are quite expensive. So everyone is in a different situation. You've got to kind of create your own rules and find that healthy strike of balance between something that's challenging enough, but also realistic so that you can actually stick to it and go the distance with it.
Okay, so we would be realistically looking at things like excess clothes just for the sake of buying them, as opposed to kind of the essentials, buying your underwear, buying your shoes, that kind of thing that you actually need to get around. You probably need more than just undies and shoes to go to work. But anyway, takeaway food, those kinds of things. Yeah. Those are pretty kind of clearly defined as discretionary spending items and entertainment, not going to the movies or not going to a concert or things like that, which would be tough to do for a lot of people, but they are things that you would get quite a good feeling from not doing those, because you're like, I'm depriving myself, but I'm doing it for a good cause.
But also you need to understand and respect where you come from. So someone who has, has a spending problem, a shopping problem, for example, and just buys all the time, them cutting it down to one item per month is a huge transformation.
Yeah.
Whereas for someone else, that one item per month is still excessive and unnecessary. So, be kind to yourself. This is about, progress, not perfection.
Okay. All right. The big benefit of doing it is it is a spending reset, really, isn't it? If you were to do it, even if you're not successful, not 100% successful, it would make you stop and take stock of what you are spending, right?
Oh, the awareness it creates could be very powerful, and something that you could use to reset your financial habits that take you through the rest of your life. There's a lot to be learnt from doing these types of challenges, and not even necessarily a no spend, no buy challenge. Even, I did recently a 7-day mortgage challenge. I did my own Sugar Mama 10-day financial reset challenge. I learned so much about myself. So there are lots of non-tangible things that come from doing these particular challenges. But, at the end of the day, the key benefits, I would say, are obviously number one, your financial. You might be protecting your savings, growing your savings, or even accelerating your financial journey, because that money that you've managed to save can then go towards some of your financial goals, such as paying off debt or building up your emergency money or investing. So, if you can make sure that those savings at the end of the year are there, you can quarantine them and actually look at that bank account and go, wow, this is how much I was able to save from doing this challenge. Great. Don't go then blow it on some stuff. Use that for your financial well-being. And then obviously the psychological benefit, which I think is the most beautiful and powerful one, is gaining that deep understanding and awareness of how you spend money and, why you spend money. What are your triggers? What are the emotional impulses that go on for you to go and have a reckless shopping expedition or blow a whole pile of money on something that you don't actually value? So, this can actually allow you to become incredibly intentional with your money. You're looking at me like you just said a whole load of crap, or that's actually really interesting.
No, I was actually thinking about what you said about 8 minutes ago about the limited number of clothes that I bring in. It is because you lectured me 18 months ago now on the importance of using a capsule wardrobe. And I took your words to heart.
That's rubbish. You had a capsule wardrobe before we met. I mean, yeah. God, he can't pull the wool over my eyes.
Yeah, but now I have a name to attach to it. It's a capsule wardrobe, and Canna told me to do it. So therefore, I'm allowed to just wear the same kind of 2 or 3 shirts and the same kind of 3 pants and 2 pairs of shoes.
You are all right. I'll give you that.
Thank you. It is a sound financial decision. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to find out kind of who a challenge like this is most suited to, who would benefit most from it, and also how to overcome some of the challenges that you would have in not just committing to it, but sticking to it for any period of time. So we've got still got a bit to cover. We'll be back in a moment. Canna, we are talking today about a no-buy year or a no-spend year where you commit to not spending money on kind of non-essential things, really, across the course of a year, and the fact that it is really a spending reset for a lot of people. But who is this most suited to? Are we talking about people that might have a bit of a spending problem and have identified themselves as being perhaps a little bit too willing to indulge in kind of impulse buys, or is it perhaps households that might be living kind of paycheck to paycheck and want to go, okay, we need to reset here. We need to find where there is a bit of room in the budget. Let's commit to this challenge.
I think, to answer your question, both.
Okay.
Anyone that knows they need to do something about the way that they engage with money and use money and to a certain degree abuse money, and I don't say that with any judgment, something like this in a gentle way could be really beneficial, because essentially it's a detox. Then I would say anyone who's curious, anyone who thinks, this could be really helpful for us in, getting rid of any waste, creating any awareness as to, triggers for spending money and blowing money, and, allowing us to maybe save up a lot of money that we can then use to catch up maybe for previous lost time with their financial journey. So yeah, I would say if you've got a problem and you want to address it and you're willing to do the work and face the music, and for anyone that's curious as to not just the financial benefit, but also the mindfulness and the psychological benefits from doing this. Because I've done this not a full year, but obviously I've done Frugal February, I think 9 years in a row, maybe
Wow.
10.
That's a lot.
And every time I do it, I learn something new about myself. And it definitely keeps me in check when it comes for the rest of the year.
One of the big challenges, though, would have to be motivation, right? Because like anything that's a bit of a trend, for instance, or anything that you can start strong with something like this. You go, yep, committing to a no-buy year. You know, you often see it with people when they get like a Fitbit or something like that, right? And they go, and I'm monitoring my steps, and I'm going to hit my 10,000 steps every day, and they do it every single day for the first week, and then it just drops off, and they're at 8,000. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, it's just kind of sitting on the couch again. It feels like the same kind of thing, that you would hit this really hard. I'm doing a no-buy year. You'd plaster it all over social media, and within a month, you're kind of heading out to dinner at restaurants and things like that.
Forgot about it.
Yeah, indeed. And suddenly it's just kind of, well, I'm just going to go back and delete that post I made about it on Instagram. How do you stay motivated for the full year?
Look, I have my questions about how sustainable this is, but to anyone who's thinking of doing this or has already started doing this, make sure you've got a goal.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so that you know exactly why you're doing this. You know, for some people, it might be like saving up a deposit to buy their first home. For some people, it might be about clearing toxic debt. Mm-hmm. For some people, it might be about paying for an amazing holiday overseas, traveling for 5 months. Know your why, because you have that why is linked to that goal. And the goal is something that you can see and you can track your progress along the way and know that, oh, you know what? The hard work is paying off. It's getting there, making progress.
You're tying it to something positive then, aren't you?
Yeah.
Rather than just doing something which is, I mean, even the name of it is negative, no buy year.
Yeah.
Like there's negativity attached to this right from the start. But if you're tying it to something positive, like a savings goal or a trip or something like that, then it flips it.
This isn't about punishing yourself. You can't go into this challenge with that mindset that this is about like sacrificing and punishment. And, you know, it's a way of undoing your sense of self-worth to rebuild yourself. You can't look at it like that. It is a challenge to help improve your financial situation. It's a challenge to help improve the psychology around money and your money mindset. It's a positive thing. It's exciting. It's called a challenge for a reason.
Are you alarmed at how easily now I talk about money mindsets and the positivity and the negativity attached to the language? I think there's a very real chance that I'm in fact turning into you.
I sometimes think I'm turning into you, so this is really concerning.
That's a really scary thought, the hybrid of where we would meet in the middle. It's just, very unpleasant. It's extreme, isn't it? Not the hybrid of you and I, but the idea of going without spending for a full year. Is there kind of smaller steps that we can take? And I mentioned before the idea of maybe trying it out for a month or something. Is that the way to go to kind of ease into it? Because you wouldn't like recommend someone, if they've got a bad habit, it's not necessarily the most effective way just to say cut it out entirely. Going cold turkey is not necessarily going to be the most effective way to get rid of it. You've got to be realistic about the way you're doing this.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, most households right now are living like this.
Yeah.
They are, you know, tightening the belt. They're saying no. They're going without. They're looking to save. They've cut all those non-essentials 8 years ago from, you know, when interest rates started going up and the rising cost of living. So a lot of people actually are doing this already. So this is not the right challenge for them because they're living and breathing it every single day.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to do this, what I recommend is bursts and spurts. Lean into it. So you would say, okay, well, let's do, for each month, let's do 1 week or 1 weekend where we do a no spend. I will say on the other side of that, though, don't then go and save a whole pile of money 1 weekend or 1 week to then, you know, celebrate with and sort of rebel back, which is actually was a problem for me with Frugal February. I would be so bitter and angry by the end of Frugal February and so filled with resentment. I'd then kind of just, this bad girl would come out of me and
a
I'd
massive
go on a
spending
shopping
rebound.
spree. So, you know, that's not the purpose behind this. It's don't even bother wasting your time and energy doing something like this if you're going to rebel like I used to. But, you know, so lean into it, to do short, sharp burst, do a 10-day challenge, do a weekend, try a month, maybe try 3 months if you want. And as you get better and better and understand how to do this that suits you and your circumstances and the people around you, then you can keep going with it.
One last question. Actually, probably two more. I don't like to limit myself. But this has the potential to affect relationships, doesn't it? It has the potential to kind of impact the relationship you might have with your friends, your social activities. If suddenly all your friends are kind of going out for a drink after work or something and saying, no, I can't, I'm doing a no-buy year, you have the potential to suddenly end up
very lonely.
Yeah, you'll be a Nigel by the end of the year.
No offense to anyone called Nigel, of course.
No, I don't think that's really used anymore. Nigel, no friends.
No, I hope not, for Nigel's sake.
If we have any Nigels listening, please get in touch and let us know whether you have friends.
And let us know that please know that we're not offending you or mocking you for your name.
Oh, yeah.
More importantly.
Oh, sorry,
Come on, a bit of sensitivity here.
Sorry, Nigel. Go on.
Look, I will say this. When I first did Frugal February, I found it really hard, and I had to learn quickly how to do Frugal February properly because I had that problem. Tom would be going, let's go out for dinner. Everyone's going out for dinner together at this restaurant next week. And I'd have to say, I can't. I'm doing Frugal February. And so I wouldn't go. So I had to start being really careful with doing Frugal February and not let it be detrimental to my mental health.
Yeah.
So I would actually let people know what I was doing. And by telling people up front, hey, I'm about to start doing Frugal February, I would love to see you, but I'm sort of restricted at the moment because I really am honouring this tradition and this particular challenge. Then I would give people the opportunity of time to actually then come up with something else that would actually work, where I could actually join in. Mm-hmm. Also, I encouraged as many people as possible to try and do Frugal February with me. And it's funny, some of my friends would actually say to me, hey, we're thinking of all going out to lunch, but we know you're doing Frugal February, so how about we do this instead to try and support you? So it was actually really nice. So, you do need to be aware that some people are going to find it really annoying and irritating that you're doing a challenge like this. And so be it, that's their problem, not yours. But you need to understand that it works both ways. So you'd suggest maybe going for a walk together or having coffee or, having a friend over for breakfast instead of going out for breakfast or doing a gym workout together.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of let people know what you're doing and why, and share something important to you if you feel safe with that person, but then find other ways to make sure that you keep connections with people so that you have that, mental health is strong to be able to go the distance and do this in a sustainable way.
All right. At the very beginning of the show, I asked you one question that you will now need to answer.
Oh.
Is it possible to go a full year without spending?
Yes, but success depends on preparation and your mindset going into this. So you've got to create a realistic framework. You've got to have some very clear pre-agreed rules and exceptions. You've got to have rewards, and I'd even recommend having rewards along the way, like little rewards to help you keep going. And of course, have that big goal at the end. And don't just focus on the money, but focus on the lessons and the personal growth that goes on behind the scenes. And that's why, I think the person who wrote that story in the paper, I think she was journaling along whilst doing this, which I think is a really smart idea. And if you really want to do this, know that even if you do this only 50% of the time, that's incredible. You can fail 50% and still have amazing, get insights and wisdom gained from doing this.
I think you've just summarised it better than I could. That's a really good kind of wrap of how...
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, because I always think you summarise our pod episodes brilliantly, so I'm rather chuffed.
How about this? We're ending on such a positive note after you kind of sledged me about my clothes. I gave it to good old Nigel for having no friends, various things. If people want more information from you, where do they find you?
Always at Sugar Mama TV and, of course, Canna Campbell Official.
And you can hear me every day with Sean Aylmer on Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. Thank you very much for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember, please hit follow on the podcast, and the best thing you can actually do is to tell somebody else. Or if they might be interested in this episode in particular, send them a link to this episode so that they can listen to it, spread the word about the podcast. Thank you for your company. Join us again next week.